Hi, everyone. I told Andrea to cut in if I do dip into jargon, so I'm going to try my best to do as such a good job as she did, being just raw. So I work at an ad agency, Broadhead, and it's kind of middle of the pack in terms of how big ad agencies are. We're about 100 people, and we're what's called full service, which means we do everything from creating logos and TV commercials to like buying media, building websites, buying advertisements and billboards. So we kind of go all the way from one end to the other in terms of marketing. And I am a digital strategist or digital engagement strategist. We're downtown Minneapolis. The salary, I'm going to say this a lot. My position varies really broadly. People with titles like mine can be really junior, can be really senior. There's a lot of variation in the kinds of things that somebody in my role would do. So salary would vary quite a bit based on that. And I have been in my type of role for about 7 years. So what do I do all day? So people in my role, just to kind of stop for 1 second, people in my role tend to specialize in a couple of different areas. So digital strategy is a lot of things, but usually people in my role specialize in a couple of them and maybe have a general understanding of all of them. So when we talk about digital, that's things like building websites or Google search. So how do you get your website in those search results really high up so that they show up right at the top? Maybe you pay to do it, that's paid search, which is one of my kind of specialties. Or maybe you just try to get your website really strong so it appears there. Other things people might specialize in would be emails. You probably get a lot of emails from big companies. That's somebody like me who's in charge of figuring out when they should send email and to who. Social media ads and posts from companies. Videos, so ads on YouTube or Hulu. Analytics, so kind of where are people going online and how do you track them and what are they doing the things that you want them to do if you're a big company. So kind of all these different pieces that people in my role would do. So my biggest thing that I do all day is provide my opinion, which is great. I get to tell people what I think and mainly about what things can we do in the digital world that will help our clients with their businesses. So our agency works with lots of different businesses, lots of different clients. Some are really small, some are really big, and I have to kind of take what I know, so different data that we have out on what people are doing. What are my clients' goals? What have they done in the past that's worked or hasn't worked? What are their competitors doing? How much money do they have? And then I have to kind of put together a plan based on all of that information. Here's what I think that they should do to reach that goal. I'm often going into client meetings and talking to them about a new idea that we have for them, or sharing results. So here's this thing that I presented to you a long time ago. We've been doing it, and here's how it's working, and here's what's going well, and we're going to keep doing, or here's what's doing badly, and here's how we're going to change it. A big thing that I have to do when I provide my opinion is like on the spot. Like somebody in a meeting somewhere is like, oh, well, what if we tried this? We should ask Anna if that's a thing that actually exists on the internet. Like, can we do that? So I get a lot of people who maybe aren't as digital savvy coming up with interesting ideas, and they need someone to come in and at least tell them if they're on the right path or if they need to figure out a different way to do what they're trying to do. So I ask a lot of questions. Hey, client, what is your goal? Maybe the client comes in and says, hey, we need to build an app. And then I have to say, well, hold on, wait a second. What are you trying to do? Like, are you sure you need an app? Is there another thing we should be doing instead? So I do a lot of sharing my opinion. I also do a lot of asking questions. In addition to that sort of plan and recommendation side of things, I also assist with, or sometimes I oversee the execution. And kind of going back to what I said earlier, some people in my role are very heavily on the planning side and the proposals and the, providing ideas. Some people are heavily on the execution side. So once those ideas get approved, somebody's got to actually make them go and do the work. So there are other people who are mostly on the execution side. I'm a little bit of both. So I might just hand over the approved plan and say, yep, we got green light, you guys, team, go do it. I might help execute, kind of depends on the size of the thing and kind of what our staffing looks like. for really big projects. So for example, if we're building a website, that's a big project. So there's a lot of different people involved, and I'm usually more of a consultative role. So I'll provide input at each step, like, yep, this makes sense with what we proposed, or, ooh, we need to fix that because that's not what the client really needs or wanted. And then kind of generally as projects are coming to life and people are working on them, I'm often a liaison. So I talk to the technical people, and I can kind of speak their language a little bit, and then I can turn around and go back to the client and, put on the, nice business casual and chat with the client and talk about here's what's happening and here's what's going well, and, here's this thing we need to make another decision on, and so forth. So core hours were usually available to our clients about 8:30 to 5. We're on the East Coast, it's usually a little bit later. If you're on the West Coast, it might be a little bit earlier. We do occasionally have things that we need to do for our clients on evenings or weekends. It's not every evening, it's not every weekend, but occasionally, we'll have to travel somewhere or launch a site on a Sunday, so it's ready for that Monday morning. I spend about half my day working at a computer and about half my day either in meetings with my teams or on the phone with our clients. My workplace is really flexible, so we do a lot of work from home. Most of our clients are not in Minneapolis. We are on the phone all the time, so calling into meetings if need be from home is usually not a problem. Okay, so here's an example of a thing I stare at a lot. This is a bunch of data about a client website. So that lettering in blue down the center, those are the places that people are coming from when they landed on the website. So number one, Google Organic. That means those 2,900 people were searching for something on Google, and they happened to click on our website. It was organic. We didn't have to pay for it. They came to our website because they found us in search. So I stare at this kind of data a lot to figure out, hey, where are people coming from, and what are they doing once they get on the website? Which pages are they looking at? So this is one example of a thing I stare at a lot. I use this data to kind of make decisions about what we're recommending. Here's another thing I stare at a lot, and this is words that we're buying in search. So in this case, you see a bunch of diesel and biodiesel words. So in this particular campaign, if somebody had searched for something around biodiesel, we were trying to put our search ad, or text ads that you might have noticed appear at the top of Google search results. So there's a little green thing that says ad sometimes at the very top. And that's what this is. So this is kind of giving me information about which of the words that we are buying are getting clicks and impressions. So we buy the word that you search and put our ad up there. So lots of other things I stare at all day, but these are two of them. You'll notice that there's a lot of numbers here. I do a lot with data because that's really important to us to make sure that what we're doing is working, that we're tracking what we're doing. We're not just kind of spending lots of our clients' money and then who knows how that worked. We're really paying attention to it. We also use it to make decisions. So kind of what am I going to propose next? It really depends on what's happening out there. So how does my job fit into the bigger picture? So when you think about an agency, it's important for someone to stay really on top of the trends, understand digital changes really fast. So what's happening? What are the new opportunities we can take advantage of that maybe didn't exist even a few years ago? A lot of times our clients, so some of my clients, for example, are in the agriculture industry. They don't always pay attention to what's happening in the digital world. They're really focused on what's happening in the agriculture world, the tariffs, fertilizer, weather. They're thinking about all these things, price of different crop inputs. And so they've got their mind on a million other things, and they need someone like me to be thinking about the digital for them and come to them and say, hey, here's a thing, and here's why I think it will help your business. So that's the biggest piece of my job is probably that education, making sure that I'm breaking it down in a really simple way for people who either don't have a lot of comfort with digital or just don't have time to think about it. I also have to do a lot of analyzing. I have to make sure I ask the right questions, because if I don't ask the right questions, people don't always know what I need to know. And we could end up recommending something that doesn't make a lot of sense because we didn't figure it out in the beginning. Yeah, and then I talked about this a little bit earlier. I need to help bridge the gap between the more technical people, the people who build things or, buy things, and our clients who really have the strongest understanding of their business and what the challenges are that are facing their business. So kind of the skills that I need for my job, time management is a big one. I have a lot of different clients, and they all have their own projects that are important to them. So I need to really just figure out how I'm going to prioritize what needs to get done when, and what is the hottest thing, and where does it go, because the clients all think that their projects are very, very important. And so I've got to figure out how to make sure to get them all done in the time that's needed. I'm really curious. I'm sort of a naturally curious person, so I like to learn about totally new things. So if a client comes in the door and it's something I've never worked on, I love diving in and trying to figure out what is their business. Do they need to, do people know who they are, or is that part of our challenge that we need to get people to know who they are? Do people trust them? Is that part of the challenge? Or is it just we need to try to sell more product? They've got a lot of people who love them, and we need to get those people to buy more often. So I love kind of thinking through what is the problem and really learning about all the different ways we might be able to solve it. I also am a natural at teaching, so that's something that I just always love to do. I like to explain things and can break things down in a more approachable way. I kind of can figure out how to make more sense to people. And I'm pretty confident, so I have to present all the time. I have to get up in front of big groups, not only to present, which is important in my job, but also defend my recommendations. Sometimes people are they want to disagree with me. They want to call out, well, what about this? Did you think about this? And they poke holes in my argument because, what I'm recommending could cost a lot of money, and they want to make sure if they're going to spend this money on, a advertising campaign online or building a new website, they want to make sure that they're spending that money in a way that they can trust and that's going to work. So, a lot of times I have to be put on the spot to kind of say, well, what if this happens? Or, well, why did you recommend this? And I not only need to have an answer to that, so I have to think through it, but I also need to be really confident when I answer to really make sure that my clients have a lot of trust in me. And then finally, analysis. So I am somebody who can draw conclusions quickly. I can kind of think on my feet, and I can see the big picture about what's the story that's important here without losing all the little details, because the little details are going to matter. Even though we were often talking about a big picture story, we need to drive awareness of this product among these kinds of people. That's the big picture. There's a lot of little details that go into that. So that is the bulk of the presentation, and so I'm going to open up to questions because I kind of flew through that really fast. But before I do, the first question that Andrea and I talked about that maybe would be of interest is, how do people get into this role that I do? And honestly, most people start with a very junior role. They get an internship or kind of entry-level position in either a marketing agency or an ad agency, or in a marketing department of a big company. So for example, our clients are often, Fortune 500 company or Fortune 1000 company who have a marketing department of, anywhere from 3 people to, 30 people or more. And so getting an internship or a role in one of those places and then gradually working into it. So looking for opportunities specifically with digital analytics. So if you're, if this is all new to you, it would be things like helping with creating spreadsheets or graphs to show analytics. Web content writing is another way a lot of people come into it. If you're a writer, you might be writing content for the web, and that takes kind of a different sort of thinking than long form articles sometimes do if you're writing for a website. And then generally just research in digital topics. So I kind of raised my hand anytime a digital topic came up when I was kind of getting into the marketing world, and was like, yeah, I'll research what the competitors are doing. I'll put that together in a little packet for you. So Those are kind of the ways you can move into this position sideways. I would say, kind of from another area or an industry, I would say there are other positions in an agency that are easier to do that. Mine is a little harder because you do have to have quite a breadth of knowledge about digital strategy and digital pieces. Easier jobs in ad agencies to kind of move into from other places are account service. So there's an account person whose job it is to tap each of the experts and bring them to the client. So they're the ones who are like the client's right hand at the agency, and they would call me and say, hey, I need you to talk to my client on this topic, so come on into our meeting tomorrow. So an account service role is a little bit more of a generalist, and they lean on people like me in the ad agency to kind of give their client the whole picture. So with that, I think we could do questions.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I will go ahead and take everyone off of mute so that if you have a question, go ahead and pepper Anna with it now.
Hey, I have a question, Anna. My name's Tim. When you were talking, fascinating. Thank you, by the way. I'm going to have my son, who's 17, listen to this because he's interested in marketing. When you go to a client and, like you said, you're starting with what's your goal, right? Because they think they have a solution, but you want to know their goal. Do you ever get into a non-digital media solution? And how do you handle that? Like if you listen to their goals, do you ever think to yourself, digital might not be the platform for you? Or how does that come about?
That absolutely comes up. So in an agency like ours, we have people who specialize in all different things. So there are people whose role it is to buy other kinds of media. So like, I'm just going to throw it out, like a magazine. They might be buying print ads or TV ads, or there are people who do a lot of event-based things, so trade shows or kind of experiential. Sometimes you pass like street teams handing things out in the street. So there's a million different kinds of tactics that people in this agency know about and are kind of more specialists in. So yes, oftentimes there are other people in the room who are there that I can kind of turn to and say, what do you think about this? I have had to have the conversation before where I say, this great idea that we have or that the client has, I don't think it makes sense, and here's why. And so those are sometimes harder conversations to have. To me, a lot of times digital things can be kind of bright and shiny. Everyone's excited to do the next latest and greatest digital thing. But you're right, it doesn't always make sense depending on their goal. And so we have to just kind of really come to the table. If that's the conversation, we really have to come to the table with the data and, here's why maybe your audience is not using that platform, and it's going to be really expensive to build something there, and you're not going to see results. So we have to come with a lot of backup reasoning, rationale for something like that.
I have one more question. Who do you look to for thought leadership in the digital space? New things are coming out, whatnot. Who's out there really pushing the edge?
Ooh, you're talking about from a company perspective?
Yeah, like is it all Amazon and Google and what they do, you do, or how do you get your, the new ideas? Where do they come from?
That's a great question. So it is not all Amazon and Google, and part of the reason is that those are very specific kinds of businesses. So, retail, Amazon is a retailer. I actually do not work with any retailers. A lot of my clients are selling things that are either sold through a sales force or just you can't buy them online. Like food, for example. There's some kinds of food, like the market isn't as big online. So like, for example, frozen turkey or things like that. It's coming, right? Delivery services, but it's not the same kind of thing. So I think it really depends on the industry. We often will look at different industries to get ideas, but it really depends. That's not a good answer for you, but it kind of depends on who the end audience is that I would take a peek at.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. I know we have about 5 minutes left. If people have to drop early, that's totally cool. But any other questions? Happy to talk through the rest of the half hour or even go over.
You were getting at this a little bit, Anna. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I'm Adrian. I'm curious what kinds of ways or what things you do to stay on the cutting edge, or ways that you discover new ways of doing marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I subscribe to a couple of e-newsletters that just kind of round up things from around the digital world, which I could certainly have Andrea drop a couple of them in the follow-up materials. I also just sort of, like kind of what Tim was alluding to, I do go out and look at some of the big companies. Depending on the industry, I'll go and grab like sort of who are the biggest names and the leaders in the industry. People end up forwarding me a lot of things just because they know that I'm in the role I'm in. Like, hey, Anna, did you see this? What do you think about this? So I'm sort of lucky in that way that I don't, sometimes it comes and finds me and I don't have to actually go looking for it. Yeah, I try to go, I belong to a marketing group in the Twin Cities that I really like, and I try to go to their events from time to time. If any of you are in the Twin Cities, Minnesota Interactive Marketing Association, MEMA, is a great resource, just for kind of thinking big and new and what's happening. So those are probably the main ways.
Thanks.
Awesome. Any other questions? I don't want to cut anyone off if they have something burning.
Yeah, I got one more. Sorry.
Oh,
go ahead.
I was actually, this is John. Sorry, I was going to actually add on to the last question real quick. I actually live in a similar world as Anna does, and there's a resource online called medium.com, and it's a great resource for kind of all things digital, and they do a really good job of boiling down the authors of their content to be subject matter experts in digital spaces. And it's a good resource that I use. So it's medium.com.
It's a good one.
Yeah, Tim, go ahead.
Quick, and I'm always curious about work-life balance, and I know you say you work from home a lot, but do you feel pretty much free to block your calendar and go run some errands or go work out or whatever middle of the day if you need to, if things are slow, or you feel like you're always accountable to be sitting in front of your computer and online?
That is 100% dependent on the type of agency and which agency you're at. There are agencies that don't have a great work-life balance. It's just a fact of the matter that our clients' needs come first. So there are some agencies that definitely, I think there's a lot of workaholics, and it's sort of a, if the client needs this and they say they need it tomorrow, we got to finish it for tomorrow. So there is some of that happening. Also, if you think about the business model of an agency, they make money by you billing your time, similar to lawyers. So I track my time every day and say, how much time I spent on each project, and then that's what's billed to the client is my time. So if you think about it from an agency perspective, if you want to make more money, you got to get people to bill more time. That said, it depends on the agency. The agency that I work at and the smaller agencies tend to be a little more flexible. We're actually an employee-owned agency, so it's much more flexible in terms of working from home, or like you said, I feel fine going out and running an errand. That's no problem. I think, again, it really depends on the environment and the place. On the flip side, agencies, again, they really want you to be here. So we have a full bar, we have video games, we have, you name it, ping pong tables, that kind of stuff. They're really fun environments because they want it to be fun to come to work. I would say as a junior role, that tends to be a little bit heavier too. The longer you're around, the more kind of flexibility and ease you can kind of come and go and do what you need to do.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I know we're at 1 o'clock, so I just want to thank you so much, Anna, for volunteering as basically the guinea pig to do this. I hope that those of you who are called in found this interesting, enjoyable, maybe learned something different. I will be posting this online, so if you want to tell someone about it and they want to listen at a later time, they can now. Otherwise, we'll look forward to talking to hopefully a lot of you again in June for our next session. So be on the lookout for some information about who that's going to be and when it's going to be. So thank you so much for joining, everyone.